everybody. I'm in the shop again. This is, my dad's wood shop. Joiner, such a sweet piece of machinery. So I put fucking chips in the blades by running staples through. Dumbass. So let's go ahead and stand. Get the full body shot. Feet at shoulder width. Drop the knees to obscure your toes from your eyes. Just that much. You don't have to go farther. Turn the hips under by pushing the lumbar out. Push the thoracic forward and drop the chin. Right? And visualize a string attached to your spine, pulling you upward. Right? Keep that string tight. Right? And then use your intention to pull on it, especially on the out breath. I've probably mentioned before, but that out breath when you get it, right? The in breath, obviously, right? It's a polar relationship. Can't have one without the other. But the out breath, traditionally in the past, especially in Western fucking physical training practices, you collapse on the out breath, right? Right? You drop into your stretches or whatever on the out breath, right? And it's the inverse for this. So on the out breath, you actually extend. And so you get this stretching aspect, right? Because your breath is going out and your intention is separating your vertebra. So lumbar pushed out, thoracic forward. Chin drop, tight string, and then you make a bow with your arms. It's called an elbow, but don't make an L. Right? In the camera, it might look like it's an L, but that's just the angle. So it's like you're hugging a tree, right? Hands in front of the navel, fingers not tight, not like this, but supple, but engaged. And that's like your whole body, supple but engaged. Right? So breathe from the stomach and then expand outward. Right? Do not breathe from the upper lungs, right? From the stomach and expand. We'll do 3 per hand position, just like always. Now in front of the heart. Front of the third eye now. Let's do one more. And one more. Silent out breath. Extend upwards on the out breath. All right, you guys. So I've gone through a transition on this, right? I've just been trying to say the same thing, right? And so to review, right, there's a physical problem that we have, that humanity has, that we've failed to solve over at least 10,000 years, right? Just keep repeating the same pattern. And so, right, it's time to break the cycle. And that's the purpose of this, right? And so how do we break the cycle, right? We recognize the problem, right? And there's only one problem, right? Which means there's only one solution, right? All of the problems that we see in society, in our civilization, are from that one root problem, right? Everything else, right? All of these numerous myriad problems are symptoms, right? And so we all know you can't treat the symptoms and expect to be cured, right? You're just actually masking what the body is saying, that there's something wrong, right? And so must address the root cause, right? And so just like with our body, right? Humanity is a body, right? The collective is a body, right? And we are all of its cells. It may be a reductionist, right, viewpoint, but it works pretty fucking good because, for one, this is what I say, right? That people live by exchange, right, with each other. Copy, right? It is the collective that interfaces with the larger surroundings, right? It is not the individual. So we are the collective. There's no individual without the collective, because you can't live without everyone else. Copy? And it's like, oh, wait, but I could fucking go off the grid. Yeah. You would be miserable living alone, right? We are made for a relationship, right? And so relationship is how the individual is defined, right? Separated out from the mass, right? but there is no individual without the relationship. So you can see how both are required at once, right? It's not one thing or the other, it's both things at once. So recognizing that the civilization is a body, right? And we are the cells. And our purpose is what is the purpose of humanity, right? Is it that there's no purpose and stop trying to give meaning to your life or you'll have a miserable life, right? It's there is a purpose. And everything that no one fucking wants to say it, right? No one wants to fucking say it. You know, it's not to have a good life and die, right? It's not only for spiritual fucking evolution, right? We're already fully evolved, right? It is only our, you know, our lack of being able to remember what we are, who we are, right? That requires this process in order to get to a place, you know, after 50 fucking some years, right? 50 fucking some years. Get to a place where you can start to recognize. And so it's just unlearning all of the bullshit, right? That we are born into, which is the big lie. The way that we live is unnatural. The exchange is natural, right? We live by exchange, but recognizing that that's how we live and try to argue with that, okay? Try to fucking work that out on your own. Try to dispute it, right? You can't. There's no living without exchange between each other, right? That's how we do it. And so if that's how we live, then why the fuck are we reducing the flow, right? The flow of energy and information by killing each other, by murdering each other. And I don't mean individual on individual, large scale fucking murder, right? Why is that? If that's the case, which it is, the body of society is ill. It's sick, right? If our purpose is to exchange with each other, right, and we are reducing the likelihood of positive outcomes, right? Because on aggregate, over time, all of these relationships and exchanges produce an output, right? And so if our purpose is to exchange, then what do we exchange? We exchange what we make, right? And so why is it that we would reduce the possibility of creating a novel fucking benefit, right? An unheard of, unseen thing that doesn't exist yet. Why would we reduce the chances of that by fucking reducing the number of people that can participate? It may sound fucking, you know, kind of mundane, and it is, right? But that's the physical problem, right? And so the problem to solve, right, is to make sure that the body of society, of civilization is healthy, right? And it's obviously sick. It's so fucking obviously sick, right? So what is the problem? What is the motherfucking problem? Right? So I just got through explaining that there's no individual without the collective, right? There's no way to define what a human being is in a vacuum, right? Does that make sense? So this is togetherness, right? That there is no separation between us. There is no division, right? Division would actually divide out portions of the body that are required to work together in order for the body to function smoothly, right? And efficiently. So the problem is division. The problem is division. That's the motherfucking problem. And again, it's like when we use words, it kind of falls flat because it's been said before, millions of times, right? At this point, all of the avatars, right? Throughout history, we're saying this shit, right? But we have yet to figure it out, right? And so it can fall flat because everyone's heard this before, but actually fully understanding what it is, right? What division is, right? Divided consciousness. So the problem is that, right? And it's a lie, right? That that this adversarial, right, mode of operation that is a result of division, right? The adversarial mode of operation is division. And so where does that come from, right? A divided consciousness as a collective, right, is separating each and one of us out from each other and atomizing it, right? And ignoring the fact that there's no fucking living without everyone together, right? So division is the problem, right? And so what's the solution, right? Knowing who you are, right? Making this psychological transformation. Because any fucking organization, right, that we create with a divided consciousnness will be corrupted. It will stratify, right? It will become hard divided, right? And so why is it this stratification occurs, right? When relationship is how we survive, right? And so the collective, right, is necessary for survival. Why is it, right, that we are against each other, that we feel threatened by each other? That it's non-recognition of our nature. One, the mundane aspect of our nature is that we are living beings, right? We can't fucking forget that. We can't fucking negate that. And we can't say, if I just make this spiritual fucking transformation that everyone talks about, that I will no longer need to eat, right? I will no longer need to hydrate, and I will no longer need any of this fucking shit because I'll be an energy being, right? You already are an energy being in a fucking physical body, right? You're not your body, right? So recognition of the physical problem is important, right? And so that's, right, what causes the division, right, is this hyperfixation on protecting and maintaining the physical body, right? And that others are a threat to that potential, right? To survival. Others are a threat to your survival. So where does this come from, right? Where does this come from? If we live through relationship, right? If the collective is what we are, right? Because there's no fucking living without exchange of value. We don't interface directly with the environment. And I'm not saying that kind of knowledge isn't important, but even if you go off the res and live in the mountains, right? Just a couple of you, or just solo, or just your family or whatever, you're going to have relationship, right? Not just social fucking interaction, but unless you build all of this shit yourself in order to make stuff that's required, right? That's your relationship right there. That's the exchange of value. Tell me you fucking can't go into the woods without a shovel, right? You want to just dig with a stick? I don't think so, right? You could, but not in a lot of the ground. Digging with a stick is fucking retarded. You need a digging bar and a shovel. All of that shit comes from a forge, right? You're going to build a forge and start casting all this shit. You're going to collect the material. It's just silly. It's fucking stupid as fuck, if you ask me, right? So this living off the land, fucking A, yeah, right. That's what we're going to do, right? But we do it together, right? Because what we create, we exchange with others. That's how we live. That's how it's been developed. So this sacred exchange existed, you know, we could say it existed for all time. So the problem is division. How does the division occur? It is the it is a false uh, assumption that everyone on the planet holds, right? It is the false assumption that if I don't get mine, then someone else is going to take it, right? That kind of that's adversarial mode of operation just comes from that kind of thinking. But as I said in the last episode, it's society runs right on a false polarity, right? All of the totality runs on polarity, but not on the one that society runs on. It's a made up polarity, and it despite it being artificial, it adheres to the rules, right, of polar relationship, of rhythm, of cause and effect, all of that shit, right? It adheres to that shit. So it's a false polarity, but once you engage with it, it creates its own fucking reality, right? So it is like a meta reality on top of the real reality, right? It's the original metaverse, right? And it's not fucking outside of us, it's installed in our brains, right? Because it's a particular assumption that we all have, which is, right, that others are a threat. And how is it that we get that assumption? And so this false polarity is what causes it. As soon as you operate from this positioning, right, it creates a stratified fucking relationship. It creates division. It fucking forces hard division and perpetuates it and reinforces it. And, you know, I mean, reinforce is the right word. I was looking for another word that means the same thing, but so it is this metaverse. It is this false polarity, right, that we run on, and it simulates creation because it can't not operate by the rules of polarity, of vibration, of waves, right? And these are the seven principles. So I was just saying that the false polarity is good and evil. And it's said to us in the fable, right, of the Garden of Eden, right? The tree, right, that has the fruit, right, the forbidden fruit is the knowledge of good and evil, right? It is not the knowledge of evil. It is not the knowledge of, it's not just knowledge, it's just knowledge of good and evil. And that knowledge is that good and evil are a polar relationship. Right? That's what the knowledge is. And that if you interact from that polarity, you create a whole new arena of operation, right? That is in our minds. But we all have to think the same way in order for it to fucking work. Because the substrate of this creation, this metaverse, is our minds, right? All of us together, right? Because we live through exchange. Our minds, as a collective, are the substrate of this false reality. And it is based on a false polarity, a polarity that is not required for the unfolding of the cosmos. Right? And this is the polarity of good and evil. So, how does it create division? Right? Well, I've said this before. Is all it requires is injustice, right? And that can take any kind of form. Hard injustice, obvious injustice, requires, right, a response. Asks, you know, it invites a response, right? It invites a response. And so to engage with this hard injustice, an artificial insertion, right, of injustice, right? Someone thought of it and then did it, right? So it's inviting a response, and when you invite a response, then that when you respond to an invitation, right? When you take action on that invitation, right, to try to right the wrong, you create this rhythm, right? A new rhythm, right? And so the injustice is evil, right? And it's in superior position at the point of the event, right? And it creates the opposite polarity, which is good, little case good, right? And it is in response to the injustice, and it will right that wrong, and then good will be superior, right? And so right there, that's a division, right? Once you fucking decide that you're in the good tribe, you've been divided, right? And it's so fucking easy. It's no wonder that we haven't figured this out yet. It's no wonder that we haven't figured this out yet, because we want to be good, right? If we see something bad, we want to respond to that, right? So it's a pretty tricky to understand, actually, right? Because morality, right? Morality. You can't just let things slide, right? You have to fight against fucking the dark forces, right? Otherwise, you're just allowing it to happen, right? But if you do not engage with it, right, you don't create a rhythm, right? And you don't enter into a polarity that requires evil in order to exist. You don't enter into the false polarity, which then fucking operates on all of the rules of vibration, all of the 7 principles, right? Which is mainly, right? The polarity is unity in disguise. So good and evil require each other. You can't fucking just have good, right? Because that's love, right? That is not a polarity. It's a non-polar thing. And it is the substrate of all things, right? So good, right, in the relationship of good and evil requires evil to exist, right? You wouldn't be able to define, quote, good unless you had something to compare it to. But it is a polar relationship, right? So it's unity in disguise. You become who your opposition, right? You have to, because that's how the laws operate. That's how they operate. Right? With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The law of cause and effect, right? The law of rhythm, right? Which what is in a superior position will fall to an inferior position, and continue along, right, in that fashion. So we can't engage, right? So that's the title of this video. It was war, right? Our whole existence has been this, right? But have we fucking changed anything? No, because whoever wins the war becomes what they were fighting, right? They become the authority. And so immediately create a counter fucking position in order to balance that. Right? So it's like, some people call it the law of opposites, and it's silly to fucking start muddying the waters of the Hermetic principles, right? So it's just fucking the law of cause and effect. The law of polarity, that there's no monopoles, right? Everything that creates a disturbance creates an equal and opposite reaction to that disturbance in order for balance to take place, right? So division is the problem. It's constantly reinforced and perpetuated. So that's the fucking problem. So what's the solution, right? To become undivided. So it's very easy to understand what we are not, right? What we are not. We are not divided. We can't even exist alone, right? And that's on the fucking material scale, right? That's on the mundane fucking portion of this, right? And once one recognizes that we're not divided, right, then what's left, right? What is left? Unity, right? So this apophatic fucking analysis, right? Recognizing what we are not, right? That this false polarity is a lie, right? That it creates instant stratification because, right? First of all, it divides because black moves first, right? Evil moves first, asking for a response. And if we respond, then we're in the rhythm, right? And now this fucking cycle has either started again or begun. So this is what we do. So that's why we can't fix the system with the system. That's why we can't fix the system with the system, because any engagement within it just creates an effect, right? If you are the cause, then there is an effect. And so a rhythmic cycle begins inside of this false substrate, right? That is installed in our minds. The metaverse is already fucking here. It's already here, right? It is a simulation of creation. It's a simulation of creation installed in our minds. And the root cause is the way that we see the world, right? And everyone holds this, everyone has this in common, despite what culture it is. Granted, there's some indigenous cultures that are not like this. It's because they haven't engaged in the fucking false rhythm. So, recognizing what we are not, right? Which is not, we are not divided. We can't survive divided. So this exchange that we do, right? This is a natural exchange that is also, you know, it is our right. It is our right at being born, right? There's nothing to earn. Everyone's born with a certain set of gifts that are for others. These gifts are for others, right? Because how do you survive? You create value for others through your unique creation, right? Not just who you are as, you know, being born in a body, but what you're capable of doing is for others. So there's no, we are not, right? On the fucking physical aspect, we're not fucking separate, right? We can't even exist like that. We continue on despite our civilization being sick and having a disease, right? But that's in spite of it, right? The sacred exchange is occurring, right? In spite of the malady. And so how do we get rid of the malady? How do we get rid of the parasite that lives off of us, right? We create a exchange that is pure, right? We don't just create a breakaway civilization and leave everything, right? The only way out of the woods is through. We still got to live. We still have to exchange. But we can begin by first planting the seed and then crystallizing the actual sacred network, which is pure and uncontaminated with this deep-rooted problem, which is the viewpoint that others are a threat to us. Does that make sense? I mean, I want it to be more fucking profound, but that is it right there. And I go over it in the podcast. It's like, it's way more fucking beneficial to society. It's way more, the survival likelihood is way higher together than alone. And that's easy to say, right? All of these different reasons I don't even have to go into. But if everyone around you is okay, right, then what reason is there to protect yourself, right? So it's the whole thing stems from this false polarity, which reinforces the idea that there's not enough for everyone. And that's stupid. Why do I gotta fucking explain how there's an infinite supply? Why do I have to explain that over and over again? It was like, oh yeah, there's a limited amount of fucking materials on the planet, and we have a carrying capacity on the motherfucking planet. Yeah, I mean, if you focus on that, then that's what you're gonna get, right? The colossal waste since we industrialized is fucking, right? That puts a strain on the supply. And that's purposely been done, right? It's purposely been done to us, so that we will be in this position where we are now, right? And see and actually believe that we're running out of space and resources, so that we will accept an offer from the authority, right? To manage this fucking problem. Oh man. So division is the problem. It's caused from a false polarity. It's all installed in our minds. How we fucking uninstall it is to recognize who we really are, right? Is to know thyself, right? And knowing thyself is to let go of everything that you think you are, to let go of all of your experiences, right? To let go of your thoughts, to let go of your role, to let go of taking credit for what you make, to let go of the past. So it's like, what are we? What are we? What aren't we? That's how you find out what you are, right? We're not all of that shit, right? It is all based on a lie. So what are you left with, right? What are you left with when you negate all of that stuff? When you negate all of that, all of the past, what are you left with? Not just your own past, but all of our pasts, right? All of history. What are you left with? Anyone? You're left without a point of view, right? You're left without your psychological sense of self. And that is division, right? So when you try to define yourself, where your skin ends, right? What it is that you do, how you're different from others, how you're better than others, how you're worse than others, everything, right? Everything, how you define yourself. That's division. So it's really easy to let go of, actually. It's really easy to let go of. But how do you do it? I can't fucking tell you, right? I'm saying what you're not. So you obviously, right? We are not fucking adversarial, right? Our nature is not to compete, right? I'm not saying competition is not necessary in some ways, right? The cells of our bodies compete, right? But it doesn't, in a healthy body, it doesn't, it actually makes the body healthier, right? It's not an all out war, you know, of organs going after each other, or, you know, this autoimmune disease that everyone has. It is not that. Autoimmune disease is from inner conflict, right? It is a battle going on inside of a person, right? I can say this straight out right now. That's what fucking autoimmune disease is inner division, right? So, a good way to fucking recognize that there's no need to defend your sense of self, right, is through meditation. And that's what everyone says, right? That's what everyone says. And so I have an idea for creating the sacred exchange, reestablishing the sacred exchange of that people do to live, right? But it would be uncorrupted and uncorruptible, right? Because, right, I have the fucking logistics, right? I have the what it is, exactly how it cannot be determined, right? What it is fucking an easy start, right? Establish the sacred exchange, right? Begin exchanging value, which is energy and information, right? Without attacks, without anything fucking being removed from that exchange, right? From a third party. So I know what to do. I know what it is, right? And that shit's fucking easy. But to create that new organization requires a psychological transformation for every participant, right? In fact, if you tried to participate in it without doing it, I mean, you wouldn't even ever be attracted to it, right? Because you wouldn't understand it. It wouldn't glorify the self, right? It would glorify our collective output, right? That's what it would glorify. That's our fucking purpose. That's what we came here to do. That's what all of our faculties are made to fucking do, right? Is to create in alignment, right? To add something new to the universe that would be not possible, right? Just the way fucking things unfold, like out there, right? And flat earthers, fuck you. Right? The cosmic egg is the totality. It's just drawn so you can visualize it, bro. Right? The portal beyond the ice wall is a portal to another planet. There's not more land out there. Like, where is the plate sitting? On something? Does it even matter to you? I mean, Jesus Christ. Oh, it's fucking retarded. And if I turn out to be fucking wrong, then we all died and got put into a simulation, right? In 2012, right? If I'm wrong that the earth is round, right, then that's what happened. Just stop fucking talking. I'm not anti-Tartaria. I'm just, I'm for taking in all the information, right? Instead of putting on blinders, right? You got to have serious blinders in order to have a belief system. So this whole thing, how you get rid of your defense of your psychological self, right, is to be able to perceive in a whole manner. The only way to perceive wholly, right, holy perception, right, HOLY, WHOLEY, holy. Both of those things mean the same thing in this case, right? And in order to see everything, you have to remove, right, your point of view, right, which is your blinders, your fucking polarized lenses, right? Whatever filters out information that doesn't jive with your sense of self, right? So, how do you do that? How do you do that? Through meditation, right? But I won't be saying that you got to set out to meditate, right? Because that's a thought. That's an instant hamstring to meditation. You can't set out to do it. It just has to be, right? So you just be the effect. You don't set out to cause the effect for meditation. And the other thing is, right, is that it's not something you just do part of the time. You want to be always in that state, right? And this is the state of, this is who you really are, right? And so when you stop limiting yourself by trying to find your own edge, right? By measuring yourself against others, right? By measuring your impact, by measuring yourself against what you're resisting against, right? Right? That is all identification, right? Identification of self, protection of your psychological sense of self. Meditation dissolves that. So you actually want to be in that state all the time so that you can actually operate at your highest potential. Trying to find your edge is a measurement, right? That's a limitation. Measurement is limitation. You want to be immeasurable. So how do you be immeasurable? Stop fucking measuring yourself. Stop identifying. Stop fucking trying to protect who you think you are, right? That's a limitation. So when you are in this state, this meditative state where you are, your sense of self dissolves, right? This is what meditation is. And this state is flow state. It is peak experience, right? Imagine it all the fucking time, right? Not just sometimes, not just here or there, right? Imagine being in that state all the time. And when you're in that state, you're not fucking concerned. You're not concerned with how people perceive you, right? You're not concerned with anything. You've given up protection of your psychological sense of self. So what is this state, right? This state is permitting the superposition, right? Instead of measuring, right, which collapses the wave function. If you're all familiar with with quantum mechanics, right? As soon as we measure a subatomic particle, right, it collapses the wave function. So a meditative state is a state of non-measurement, right? You're not putting your point of view, you're not looking at it from an individual perspective, right? You're not comparing or relating. And so it's a superposition, right? You're permitting the superposition to stay instead of measuring it and collapsing the wave function. And when you're in this state, right, you are not an individual, right? You are all things. You are everything, which is what permits you to operate at your highest potential, which is why we came here. And so identification, it's a short way to put it, is division, right? If you're identifying yourself, right? And so division is the problem. So how do we stop that? How do we remove the division? How do we remove the division? Any ideas? Well, first of all, you recognize what I already said, what you're not, right? You're not your identity. You're not any of that shit. Yet you're all things at once, everything, and all times at once, right? You are super, right? So don't diminish yourself by trying to fucking compare yourself to others, right? How small is that little fucking, that big fish, little pond, right? Statement. It's like, as soon as you compare, it doesn't matter fucking what market you're in, how big of a fucking pool of talent you're in, right? If you are comparing, if you're rising to the top of that little pool, it's fucking tiny. It doesn't matter what size it is, how many millions of people, right? All of these, stars that are on the top of the world, right? What a fucking tiny ass fucking existence, right? How about everything? You want everything? How about everything? So, in order to remove the division, you recognize the false polarity, right? You recognize that this whole thing is based on a lie and it's a theater to keep it going. And so any kind of trying to fix it is just more theater, right? You're just getting involved in this false rhythm. So a lot of that fucking will remove your, it's like, well, how do I define myself now, right? How do I define myself if I remove myself from that fucking pool? And you can't. You won't be able to. So what we want to arrive at is a non-dual mode of operation, right? And this is another buzzword, this non-duality. But duality just means polarity, right? So we want to operate from a non-polar positioning. And what this does is permits you to walk through this substrate, right, of society, of civilization, and not be on one pole or the other, which is part of the rhythm, right, of the false rhythm. And so meditation permits you to do this, right? Because identification with self, right, psychological sense of self is a polarity. Because once you make that fucking comparison, once you make that measurement, there's going to be the opposite that takes place in order to balance it out. So non-duality, right? A non-dual mode of operation, right, is to recognize that you don't want to be on one pole or the other. And so how do you let go of that? How do you let go of that? Is you let go of everything, right? You let go of everything and just use your entire perception apparatus. And this is meditation, right? Is letting go of all of that. And so that there is no polarity, right? It is non-dual, right? It is all things at once. And so that's what Qigong permits you, an easy access to that feeling, right? And it allows you to carry it forward with you. You're not done meditating, right? You're just fucking spinning up your true self, right? Just spinning it up when you do Qigong. And so you can get the feeling, right? That feeling of silence where the inner division breaks down, where the gap between the observer and the observed goes to zero or infinity. And so it permits you this allowance of the superposition of the individual and the collective, of body and spirit, of all of the things, right? So you don't choose a polarity and fight the opposite polarity because they require each other to exist, right? So good and evil, and this, I've explained this before, it's superior and inferior virtue, right? Inferior virtue is a comparison, right? Is a measurement of good relative to what's bad, right? Superior virtue is just virtuous without any comparison. So that's non-dual. That's non-dual. And so we see that nature is virtuous without fucking saying, hey, look at me, I'm virtuous, right? So it's outside of this perception module that we are running. So this non-dual mode of operation is a rejection of the false polarity, right? And a rejection of all of the default fucking action and activity that happens from operating in a dual nature, right? As opposed to a non-dual. So you take yourself out of that false rhythm simply by recognizing that there is no division, right? And so there's nothing to protect. There's nothing to protect. And so when you stop trying to find the end of yourself, you realize that yourself does not end, right? But it's everything. And this is the conundrum or the paradox is that when you let go of your psychological sense of self, you let go of that constant protection. And you let go of the idea that your will, right, that your own individual will is having an effect, right? But since we exchange in order to live, we're here, right? This is what we do. And so that's what we're built to do. Whatever your gifts are, right? When you let go of protecting yourself, are multiplied, right? You become actually more capable, because you're not fucking limiting anything. You're open to any possibility. And so you use your cognition, right? Your thinking in order to evaluate the information that comes when you stop fucking protecting who you think you are, right? And that is this cessation of thought, right? This meditative state. When you open that space, novelty can arrive, right? When you are constantly thinking and referencing the past and yourself, you only get more of that. I hope this fucking makes sense. I think some of it probably will to some people. But so that's why I do the Qigong. Like I had that kind of epiphany. I was doing the podcast and I was like, I'm going to start talking about this, the sacred exchange and the network that we need to crystallize and create. I even said we got to shoot the moon, right? Everyone who fucking makes this transformation starts to come together and we create the real exchange, the original exchange, right? But we just keep living in the meantime, but we live in a way that is non-dual, which is operating from a position of love, right? I've explained this before. Love doesn't have a polarity. Love and hate are not polar relationships because a child doesn't hate. Is just an example. A child can't hate, but a child can love, right? It doesn't require a conception of hate in order to know what love is. Does that make sense? So like up and down, there's no fucking up without down. Everything's up, and so then there's no down, and so up doesn't fucking have a meaning anymore, right? That's how love is. Love doesn't have a down. Love just is. And so that's your non-dual aspect. That's non-duality. And so operating from that, right, from a non-dual position of love is a cessation of the constant defense of the sense of self. Because if love is non-polar, then it is all things. It is the actual background of the entirety of creation. So that's how you fucking create in alignment with the universal laws, with cosmic law, with natural law, is you stop fucking saying it's you, you know, is you let go of your sense of self in order for the miraculous to occur. And we can each create that. So, right, operate from a position of love, right, which is on the fulcrum, as Russell explains, right? If you think of a pendulum, right, positive, negative, light, dark, up, down, right? Polar relationships, right? Polar relationships. Right here is the fulcrum, right? That's where the string is attached. That's where you want to operate from. That's the position of love, right? So when you can do that, then you become more capable, and you become working with others becomes a fucking power multiplier, right? By orders of magnitude, because no longer is any energy wasted on competition. Some competition is important, right? But this is competition between ideas. And so that would be how my network works, right? Is that everyone contributes and the best ideas fucking win, because everyone is on real-time fucking product feedback, right? We bring the means of production back to the fucking community. We have the technology to do that. Robots aren't our competition. They're our fucking tools, you know? We use them properly, and there's no telling what we can create. So yeah, I'm pro fucking technology. I'm pro fucking technology because we can use it to fucking do amazing things, right? But our adversarial mode of operation, this dual fucking mode of operation, is incompatible with our technology at the moment. So we're at a critical crossroads. What do we do? What do we do? We plant the seed of this sacred exchange and permit it to crystallize. And that's what I'm working on, right? And so in order for y'all to be able to join and understand, you need to have this experience where you can recognize that all things are one, right? And Qigong gives you that, right? Pretty much fucking right away. And that's that silence, right? That's the silence. And when you're on that silent out breath, right? When you breathe in, you breathe out, and you're extending upwards. I mean, you can fucking feel it, man. You can feel it. So that's the whole fucking purpose, right? We stand together, right? And we stand together. And we can crystallize the sacred exchange. And once it reaches a critical threshold, then nothing can fucking stop it. Nothing, right? So we don't have to fight anyone. All we got to do is live, right? How we were meant to live. And it'll just, we'll reach that threshold. We'll reach the threshold, right? So fighting just enters into the false rhythm, right? Resisting enters into the false rhythm. Anything we try to do in this leaky boat of our civilization will just, another leak will spring up. It's a fucking never-ending prospect, So we can see that through history, a repeating cycle, Groundhog Day, over and over and over again. Our technology gets better, our psychology stays the same. So that's the singularity. The technology gets to a point where our psychology is no longer compatible with it. That's the singularity, right? That's the singularity. So that's the critical juncture that we are arriving at, which is why there's an urgency, right? But don't take it too seriously, right? Because that's a measurement, right? So just how you get into meditation is just how we have to operate, which is that there's nothing to be done. Everything's fucking fantastic, right? We be the effect. We be the effect. We don't create the cause of the effect. We just be the effect, right? Retrocausality. So yeah, the Qigong gives you that fucking ability to feel that silence, to recognize that silence of the connection to all things. And so that's why I started doing this, right? We stand together and then I talk about these ideas and you all process, right? And get back to me. Get back to me, y'all. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad I did this. It's all in here, man. I can see it. Like it's a gestalt of imagery that all fits, right? It's all perfect. But when I try to say it, some of these seams are paradoxical, right? And so that's the crux of all of the argument, right? Which is that the truth is a pathless land, right? I can't show you the fucking path and then say, hey, follow me. Is that the whole thing is the truth. And you have to discover it for yourself. And once you do, then we can fucking do this thing. But I just said, if then, right? That is first. The effect is first. Be the effect, which is operating from love, right? From the fulcrum in a state of superposition, right? And in that way, you don't divide internally and you don't divide externally. So, yeah, everything that's happening in the world is theater, right? We get out of the woods by going through. We don't just fucking stop and we don't fucking fight. We just continue, but we start to come together. We start to coalesce around this source of value, which is the sacred original exchange, which is our nature. Our nature is not to compete. Our nature is to exchange. So keep that in mind. Love, much love always. And if you do the Qigong, you will fucking feel it, man. You will feel that silence, right? And that silence is your connection to all things. Love you guys. Till next time.